Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's great to see you today. I'm Jamie, Senior Editor, UploadVR, and I am here as part of our first ever Upload Access Developer Q&A with Balthazar from Inner Space. How are you doing, Balthazar?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here, Jamie. It's really cool to be live for this Q&A.
Yeah, welcome to the studio. Welcome to our own piece of the metaverse, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
You don't sound that impressed.
I am. Honestly. Maybe it lacks a little bit of texture, but yeah.
It could use some deco. I think we all know that.
Yeah.
It could use the door to get out of here, is what I keep saying on most of our podcasts. But
You should hire someone for that.
So Balthazar, you guys released Maskmaker, which we've got up here on the screen, just over a week ago now, right? It was last Tuesday on PC and PSVR.
Yes, last Tuesday. It's out since a few days, and it's really exciting to see the game out there and having all sorts of masks on players. And we got great feedback, so it's pretty amazing to see the game out there.
So, what has the feedback from players been like? I was looking on Steam earlier, and it seems like it's been a very positive reaction over there.
Yeah, sure. I would say the reviews started a bit slower than what we expected because the first game we released, The Fisherman's Tale, as it was really short, the reviews kicked in pretty early. But when they came, the Maskmaker ones were really positive. So it's been really cool. And even if there are a few hiccups in the release because we discovered a few bugs, the community is really supportive of our work. So it's really cool also to see such a supportive community, and people are really nice and patient so far. So it's cool.
Yeah, launch week is such a weird thing. It can be such a mix of emotions, right? How was it for you last week? Like, up until when the game was launching, were you really, really anxious? Were you working really, really hard to make sure all the bugs were ironed out and everything like that? Talk us through launch week for you?
Sure. So the PC version is locked since a while, since a while already. But we worked really hard to also have the PSVR version for the release as well. So we had to cram a lot of optimization work pretty late in the development, and it was really tight to be able to keep the date and release on all these platforms, especially PSVR. And yes, we're not used to such an expensive game, so maybe we were a bit too optimistic with the QA, and we realized that there were a few hiccups. So we're still working on the game right now to fix the bugs the community has raised.
Mm. The funny thing about PSVR is not only is it a harder system to develop for because you don't have all the power of the PC, but you also have those move controllers, which aren't
Yeah.
quite as intuitive
Yeah,
as
yeah.
what's happening on PC. Was that like a real difficult point for you working with that version of the game?
Yeah, it's PSVR is a really challenging platform. I would say probably as challenging as the Quest, but for different reasons. And the control scheme is really difficult to challenge to implement because it's so old. It's really different to what is becoming a standard in modern VR. I would say with the joystick and the buttons. on the controllers, and also the tracking obviously is pretty outdated. So
Mm,
yeah, it was a bit hard, but because we were used since we had already launched Fisherman's Tale on PSVR, and also because we were relying on a lot of comfort options and locomotion options on this game, the tracking was not so felt less like a limit in this game than what it was in a Fisherman's Tale, where it was more of a room scale experience.
mm, yeah. We have our first question from the comments section from Paradise DK. Guys, if you're watching along, you can write in the chat and ask more questions, and Balthazar will answer live. Paradise DK, good to see you. He asks, did the developers take anything VR-wise they learned from A Fisherman's Tale to benefit Maskmaker? So was there anything specific from Fisherman's Tale that you kind of brought straight over to Maskmaker?
Mm, there are a lot. I mean, it was our first game, so we pretty much everything we learned from Fisherman's Tale before moving into to this new venture with Maskmaker.
Mm,
Um, but probably the most important feedback we got from users is that the Fisherman's Tale was a bit of a on the short side of things, because the game could be finished in less than 2 hours, and we learned that the users wanted to have a deeper and longer experience, and we also wanted to try that. So we learn everything we built from a Fisherman's Tale. We've been able to build upon them to create this longer experience with Maskmaker. And yeah, and for example, we just talk about the locomotion systems, and the teleport system we have in a Fisherman's Tale is exactly the same than the one we have on Maskmaker. So we didn't have
mm,
to develop it from scratch, and but we, because we wanted to be more inclusive, we added like a free locomotion. So yeah, for example, we have another like system in our pipeline now we can use for the next game, and from game to game you usually work like that on building upon systems you already built.
mm. You talk a lot about it being your first game, which it is. It was your first game, but obviously, as we spoke about earlier in Access, not your first VR app. First, far from it. I
Yeah,
actually found a lot in Maskmaker that made me feel like it was also kind of a sequel to your work on the Firebird series in a lot of
yeah,
ways, which I was actually really happy to see. That specifically the chiseling in the
yeah,
workshop reminded me of the Unfinished, and
yeah,
then
of course.
there was kind of like
The
there was
dance
some
also
dance
maybe.
performances,
Yeah.
yeah. And so was that a deliberate thing to kind of like keep building on stuff you started in Firebird as well as Fisherman's?
Yeah, of course, but I think it was unconscious for the most part, because I guess because it's my creative input, and I was driven by the stuff I like, so I wanted to maybe, yeah, in a way Maskmaker is a bit of a synthesis between what we've done at Fisherman's Tale and the work, the more personal work I could say I've done with the Firebird series,
Mm,
and it's true we can see a little bit of both in this new game. And yes, I really try to expand upon my own universe in a way with this game, and
mm.
but there are many stuff I would like to dig further, of course.
Yeah, when it comes to the dancing, I noticed in the credits you actually went over and did the mocap at Quantic Dreams Studio. Is that
Yeah,
right? So,
exactly. Yeah.
do you have a relationship with those guys? What was that experience like?
So actually, it's not really well known because they are not they don't really shout out the fact that that they actually lend or
Mm.
how do you say we can we
Loan
you
out,
can yeah you can rent
rent, or
their
do? Yeah, yeah.
studio and their team to work in their facilities. So we had reached them in the past, actually, for the first episode of the Firebird series, because in Paris it is the most advanced mocap studio we have, and
Yeah.
because I wanted to have really high-end motion capture, I reached them, and they already had worked with third-party developers or clients, but from the moment we started to work with them on Firebird, and afterwards they were doing more and more like third party stuff like we did with them. And so it's not working with Quantic Dream as the developer, but more
Hmm.
only the motion capture side. And they have a really great team of of experienced people who have done the Quantic Dream games, of course.
Mm.
So it's great to be able to work with such a professional team for but it's when they have 2 months or 3 months of shooting, we only have one day, so
Oh,
it's
really?
not the same scope.
It was. Were you on set for that day and just trying to get all the kind of choreography down really,
Yeah,
really
yeah,
well? Or
choreography, and I even did some parts myself because because we didn't have many actors, so I had to put the motion capture suits myself. We wanted to have the stuff in the behind the scene video we did with me putting the motion capture, but maybe that was too ridiculous, so we didn't put the picture. But anyway, I was really enjoying this part of the development where I was able to participate even in the motion capture stuff. It was fun, but not the dance because we had a professional choreographer and dancer on this part.
you weren't learning moves on the day.
Yeah.
um,
Even if I would love to have done that, I don't think the result will be as good as it was originally.
Paradise DK's here again and asks, I know development takes time and most companies tend to get stuck in, but have you noticed a change in the adoption of VR over the past few years? And if yes, how compelling is it for future content? So I guess kind of, have you personally noticed the VR audience getting bigger over the past couple of years? And is it the kind of growth you wanted to see, I guess is kind of what he's asking.
I would say Quest is definitely a shift
Mm.
in the market, and but it's difficult. I don't see many more developers doing VR. I think the audience and the developers interested in VR is steadily growing, which is nice. And without the Quest, it would probably have fallen, and it would be quite depressing. But I
Yeah.
think because of the Quest, I think it gave a good kick, and we were and because of the Quest, and also like events like the release of Half-Life Alyx, it's the good thing that happen and make the curve continue to grow with more audience. So I don't think there is a paradigm shift in how things have changed in the previous 2 years, but it's definitely a positive change, and so it's really encouraging for us to continue making more stuff.
Mm. Um, Tim has the inevitable question. Uh, what do you have to say about the game coming to Quest anytime soon? I know I've asked you this before this month, but
Yeah,
the
it's a
people want to
recurring
know.
question. Yeah, of course. And it's a bit frustrating, honestly, because we would love the game to be on Quest, because obviously today it is the top one platform, and also because we for us it's really important to share our content to
Mm,
as many audience as possible, and not only to gamers, because we feel that uh, all our previous work, including Maskmaker, is, I would say, more for a casual audience than specifically targeted to gamers. And you
yeah.
can see that in, for example, in the level of difficulty you have in the puzzles. It's something we didn't want to crank too much up, because we wanted for everyone to be able to jump in the game, and be able to enjoy it, from the 12-year-old kid to the granddad or the grandmother.
Mm.
And I
Yeah, for
think
sure.
the yeah, so to come back to the question, sorry, I
It's okay.
think the Quest really enables that, because it's a more affordable device. So we would love, of course, to have the game on this platform as well. But it was, in terms of work, it was too tight for us to with the resources we had. So it's something we have to consider now, as a port for a future date. But unfortunately, I cannot confirm anything at this stage, even if I would love to.
I remember when I saw you guys working on
So
Fisherman's
it is not
Tale.
the game; it is a prototype. We need to say.
Yeah, I wanted to move on to talk about this in a second. That's why I put it on, but we got caught on Quest. Just on the last thing on Quest was that I remember asking you at one point, before a Fisherman's Tale was confirmed for Quest, you
Yeah,
outright told me no, it's not going to happen because the platform's not powerful enough. But then obviously it ended up happening. So
yeah. Why
you were
did I
quite
say that?
that
Maybe
was
because I didn't want to announce it for sure. I don't know.
it was before the game's launch on PC. It was a while ago. Um,
Maybe
and
because
PSVR.
yeah, I don't remember. But we were a bit hesitant because it was so new, and we because we already had experienced a lot of new stuff in VR. Sometimes you get a bit yeah, more how do you say, more yeah, more defensive of new stuff. But
Mm,
anyways, we were quite excited about the Quest, and the thing is that as soon as we've been able to have our hands on the hardware, we realized that the game was not so far from being able to work on the run pretty smoothly on the Quest. So the work we had to do from the PSVR version to the Quest version was not uh, too big of a of a of an adventure. So we work a few months on the port for Fisherman's Tale, but we I think we were lucky to have done a game that is so limited in terms of room size and the number of assets. So the port happened pretty quickly. But I think because Maskmaker is so much more ambitious in terms of level design, especially the even if we have already ported the game on Quest and have the knowledge, it will still be really challenging. But we're quite excited to have the game on Quest, because there are not so much yeah, really ambitious and original games on the platform. So
mm.
yeah, I think it can be a good one for Quest, I think.
Yeah, you're right. That as I was playing through it, there were definitely moments, like particularly in like the mountaintops, when you're getting those really, really stunning views out across the level, where you're like, "Ooh, that's going to be a challenge if you're going to get it to quest."
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
but
for sure.
yeah,
We
I
have to
mean,
be smart, and I would say that if we have to, if at some point we can start to work on the quest port, we'll probably have to tweak things in terms of level design in order to for the game to run on the platform. Because right now it has not been designed with quest in mind for sure.
mm, yeah. Paradise DK asks, "Are there any future plans for Maskmaker DLC, or are you working on your next project?" I mean,
It's a
could
good
be.
question.
Mm,
I don't think it's a bit early to say because the game has just been released. Maybe at some point there will be material for DLC, but
mhm,
it's too early to say, and I'm not really sure. This is the kind of game that fits this kind of strategy.
mhm.
Um, yeah, and it's also a bit early to say if we're already working on something else. But we
um,
have cards in our sleeves. It's the only thing I can say.
well, that's, I guess, on the DLC front. One thing to ask is, were there biomes and levels that you cut from the game for whatever reason?
Ah,
Are there like environments that you were really quite fond of that you had to say goodbye to?
yeah, there are not a lot because we really try to put as much as possible in the final game, and it was really challenging to have all these really big levels.
Mm,
But I can say there is material we had to cut, but it wasn't so great. So I'm not sure it would be material for a DLC, anyways.
mm. I know you were talking about like the performance on PSVR earlier as well, and Paradise DK was also asking. Don't apologize for asking questions, Paradise DK. That's what this is all about. We're glad to
Yeah,
have you
go
here
ahead.
asking stuff. um,
And thank you for your stream of the game, by the way.
yeah, for sure. Um, he also asks that now that he has a PS5, can he expect any performance boost on PSVR? Will it be the same experience as PS4? So I guess, if you're playing on the PS5 or maybe even the PS4 Pro, are
Exactly.
there any updates there
Yeah.
that are over the original?
There is already a slight difference between PS4 and PS4 Pro because, like we have on PC, we have different graphic settings. So on
Hmm.
PS4 Pro, you have a little bit of more like anti-aliasing and post effects. So I would say it's a little bit more fancy usually, but it's not a huge difference. But we wanted to have to use the power, the additional power we had on PS4 Pro to cram a little bit more like post effect. Like for example, you have it's called bloom when you're looking at bright spots. It creates like a glow. It's not something you feel like it's missing, but when you have it, it's pretty cool.
Mm. You were talking again. We were talking about that earlier, and obviously PSVR 2 is on the way. But I guess I don't. Obviously, I could ask you, "Oh, do you want to bring it to PSVR 2?" But actually,
It
when you
will.
talk about
I hope. I think I mean it will it naturally be on PSVR 2 because I suppose that all the PSVR games will be compatible right away.
well, we
I
hope
hope.
so.
I
But
hope.
when you talk about the architecture of the PS5 itself and the solid state drive they have in there and how that's meant to enable instant loading, that
Yeah.
really speaks to this game, right? Like that
Yeah.
more
Exactly.
than the headset. Like it would be
Yeah.
great to tap into that power for this game, right?
But I think it's I don't want to speak for the technical team, but I suppose that this will be enabled right away, and it means that all the loading times will be even more short. Maybe you
Mm.
won't even notice them. rather than now where you when you go the first time you go into a level you still have like 1 to 2 seconds
It's like a very
uh,
thin slice with the logo, right?
yeah, exactly. But you've done the game on PC or PSVR
I played on
yourself?
PC.
Yeah. So on PSVR, it's a little bit longer, especially when you load the game the first time. But definitely on PS5, it will be shorter. I hope, and yeah, probably.
We have a really great question from Dadathor that says, since part of the game where you're just relaxing making the masks, and that's a really, really satisfying part of the game, would you consider making, he says, toy experiences alongside game projects? So I guess they mean like maybe like a separate part of the experience you could download that was maybe just focused on the making the masks. Is that something that
Yeah.
interests you?
We had requests from players, and I think it's pretty embedded in the game itself. It's just that it's not really clear that you can do that, and it would be a nice addition if we had the time and resources to be able to do a nice free crafting mode or something.
Yeah.
Uh, Releasing this as a standalone, I'm not sure that would make a lot of sense. Or do similar stuff. I don't know. I can't say. But having like a free crafting mode would be nice. But something I can say though, is that if you finish the game, the last point of save you have before coming back to the main menu, you can use this slot and this final save to come back to the workshop and do more freely because you have all the items, the mask items, and you can do whatever mask you want from there because all the game is unlocked. And you can also go, I don't want to spoil, in the final level and do the final step, which enables even more possibilities in terms of
Mm.
crafting.
Yeah, I'm going to put the prototype video back up now, and we're actually going to talk about it like I was planning to the first time. Because what was really interesting about this video is that in the second half of it, and we'll talk about the puzzle design as well, you have like the kind of dipping feature, and actually the painting is. How would you describe it? You kind
It's
of
more
in.
freeform. It's more
Yeah,
freeform
there you
than
go.
what
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is in the current game, where it's more. We call this feature paint by numbers.
yeah. So
Do you know the paint by
even
numbers thing? Do you have
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. Like a in a like a color book.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So it's there are many reasons behind this. It's a
yeah.
long it's a long thought process we had internally. So in the beginning, we wanted to have a more as I said, a more freeform kind of crafting system where players who could do all sorts of different masks. But because we wanted to rely on a more we wanted to give the players a clear goal, a clear path to progress into the game, and it was really challenging technically to give a clear path and also give a large input for players to do whatever masks they wanted because it's pretty much opposite directions. So even if we had prototyped more freeform stuff in the crafting, we decided to give these systems a little bit more limit.
Mm,
So right now it's more. I would say it's an in between. I think it still gives the feeling of you're painting something yourself, but you have to still follow the blueprints because it's the game. It's the only way to progress in the game, and it's something pretty clear you're supposed to do. Yeah, but it's a long. We had a lot of debate internally about this
well,
last.
freeforms are really it can be a really challenging and annoying thing to do because in the player's mind, they can get to a point where they think they've done it. They've
Yeah,
imitated the mask perfectly, right? And then
yeah,
but the game isn't recognizing it, and that's got to
yeah,
be a real struggle, I think. So I think it's probably the right decision to go with what you ended up doing because when you get into the second half of the game and the mask making like opens up those extra layers, that's when I felt most in touch with it and like I was really getting in with the fine brush and getting
yeah,
like the little details. I think you're right where you said like you found a good middle ground between the two.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that the second part of the game is more rewarding in many ways. And I think it's part of the apprenticeship. We wanted to the
Mm,
players to be rewarded by having having done the first part of the game. So, but I hope that players who will who will do the first minutes will still be caught enough to be able to get there. And to come back
mm.
to the more freeform stuff, I think there is another bit in the game nearby the end again that adds a little bit even another layer of freedomness to the players and which we consider is the ultimate reward because it's the end of the apprenticeship also.
Yeah.
So I think even if the sorry to interrupt, but
No, go
if
for it.
if even if we don't have the ultimate crafting system with lots of options, I think the we really try to use it in the the best we can in the game.
Yeah, for sure. And no, it's what we're talking about. It's a tough thing to come down on, and I think it was my favorite part of the game. At the end of the day, was making the masks in the latter half, like you said, when it really opens up and you do get to do those much more intricate creations. But you're also right that the puzzles really open up in the second half of the game.
Yeah, yeah.
What were some of your favorite and like I guess proudest puzzles to design? Like looking back on it.
Um, but it seems you didn't like so much some of the puzzles, so we
I
can talk
like
about
some of
that.
them. I like some of them.
We can talk about that. And I'm okay. So personally, the puzzle I prefer is probably the puzzle that happens in the desert level.
Mhm.
Um, in the latter part of the game. I really like this one because I feel like the level design, the puzzle elements, and also the core loop with the mass crafting and the fact that you need to swap body from body to cooperate between bodies to progress into the level, and all are really intricate. I feel like it's probably the part in the game where all pieces really come together in terms of game design. Um, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's the one I'm the most proud of. But I also like the one in the forest, for example. But
Mhm.
and in general, it's more the level designs than the puzzle design itself that I think we've really done a good job because also because it's something it's the most important part in the game. It's exploration, and you want to discover an environment. So the
Yeah.
level design we really put a lot of effort into this, rather than a fisherman's tale where it was more focused on the puzzles design.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. I think this is what I said in my review. The puzzles are at their best when they work in tandem with the story like that. And I'm sure when you were designing them in your ways, like every puzzle in the game probably does that to some extent. It's just when you're playing it, like obviously some of those come through a bit more obviously, and I think the canyon example is something that is a really good, fantastic example of that because you are working between the two masks and kind of like sequentially working out in a very interesting way. The one I bring
Yeah,
up in the review as well is the kind of one that follows through from the swamps to the forest, and how enriched that is by the note you can find by going into the extra area
Yeah,
uh, in the swamps,
yeah,
which I
yeah.
thought was one of my favorite bits of the game because
You're
that's not
right.
touched on anywhere else in the story. And I
Yeah,
thought
it's
that was
true.
such
It's
an
true.
interesting way to kind of like dig behind what was being narrated to you.
It's true. It's true. We could have done more link between the level design, the puzzle design, and the yeah, and the world building and the story. But yeah, it's it's lots of pieces together, and we tried our best. And it's cool to be to know that you have seen this one at least.
Well, yeah, no,
But you've seen there are other like hidden objects that also give
yes,
these other yeah
yeah.
hints about the background, the relationship between the two characters, the master and the apprentice. And it's true that they're more or less linked to the current situation you're in when you're doing the puzzle.
Mm. Yeah, and they do give a really good insight into like what's going on between the two characters in the game. I think one thing that, this was something I said in my review, and something I saw said in other reviews, is that the game has a lot of narration in it and a lot of dialogue. That for me, like one of the things about like putting on the masks and stuff was I kind of accidentally interrupted
Yeah.
what was being said a lot of the time. Was that something that you guys were running into as you were making it, or was that something that kind of surprised you from the feedback?
It's a kind of two ways situation because um, so as you said in the review, there is a lot of like introduction and we because the world is new for players. We have to bring a lot of information and also all the mechanics they have to learn. Even if it's not really difficult, it's a lot of information in the first 20 minutes.
Mhm.
So it's true that especially at the beginning, if you are more advanced VR user, there will be a lot of stuff that will be cut, and it's something that is really difficult for a developer to make it work for all users seamless in a seamless way. And yeah, we couldn't we didn't have the time to really polish that inclusiveness as much as we wanted. So in a more broader like way, we also we I really like the idea that but maybe it's not really clear for users that there are two separate camps in the game. You have the king speaking to you when you're
Mm.
in the environment, and you have characters we call the elders, who are in the workshop and also in the towers, and they can only speak from their places, meaning that if you swap from place to place, you can cut them. And we were hoping for people realize this,
Mm.
and if they wanted to hear what they were saying, just wait before moving going back. But because the game relies so much on the back and forth, it can be annoying to wait for the character in the room you're in to finish speaking to go to the next yeah part. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. It's one of those things that, as modern game development has evolved, you've seen people tackle it in different ways. I like when you're like Rockstar and you get to make Grand Theft Auto games, you get to make a whole system where if someone gets interrupted, you get to come back to the conversation later, and the AI says, "Now, where were we?" Right? But
Yeah,
that's a
yeah, yeah,
very that's Rockstar. Of course, they get
yeah.
to do that at the end of the day, and
Exactly.
they're not jumping between worlds. They're like you
Yeah,
might get into like a combat instance or something like
yeah,
that. So,
yeah, yeah. It's
I
challenging.
yeah, I was sympathizing as I was playing because I couldn't see a way around it myself. but yeah, like
Maybe
you said,
with less
it's
dialogue would be an option. But at the same time, there was a point in the development where we had a lot less, and it felt weird also. So
yeah.
uh, yeah, the fine tuning was difficult to do, and I think it works in some part of the game, and in some other parts, it's a little bit more clunky. But yeah, as you said, it's the challenge of
Mm.
modern gaming,
It's
especially
pioneering
when you want
VR.
to, yeah, and especially when you want to do storytelling stuff. There
Yeah.
is always a clash between the the need of engaging players and being um, uh, constantly interacting with things, and having and trying to force the player a little bit to listen the story, and create the proper pace.
Mm. Yeah. Paradise DK also asked during the development, did you play anything else in VR that kind of gave you any inspiration? Or, I'll expand that question. Maybe not just for Maskmaker, but you thought, oh, that could be fun to explore more in the future.
You mean our inspirations, or what?
Well, while you
I
were
don't.
playing Maskmaker, he asks, did you play any other VR games that helped with inspiration? So, yeah,
Help,
like,
I'm not sure exactly how, but inspiration definitely. For example, so two examples. One more, I would say, technical and example would be Half-Life Alyx, because
mhm,
during the development, the game released. I would say we were just after the prototyping. So it's the good thing with Half-Life Alyx is that it really confirmed, especially on the locomotion systems, the fact that we wanted to have as many systems as possible, as many options. So we really followed the trail they had there, which is in a way a synthesis of all kind of games that happened in the past. But so really. It was quite an inspiration that we needed to follow the same way in terms of inclusiveness and options in the game. And on a completely different way, the game The Under Presence was
mm,
a really great inspiration for me. um, I think we really inspired by common things with them, like the narrative, the mind bending stuff, also the theater also elements. I think we have a really different approach with them, the Tender Claws team, I mean.
mm.
But I'm really inspired by their work, and it's probably for me one of the most creative team VR has today. But
Yeah.
for Maskmaker, I cannot really pinpoint a specific inspiration, especially because they are a multiplayer game, which is something that is super exciting for me, but a completely different ball game.
It's funny that you mention it. I hadn't actually thought about this though, because you're right that Underpresents is a very different experience, and it's focused on multiplayer in that hub world, like you said. But I almost feel like if Maskmaker was like, Under has that like single player story driven experience on the boat.
Yeah.
I almost feel like you could have Maskmaker as another one of those kind of like extensions of the Under in there, and
So you
like it
mean we
wouldn't.
should work with them?
Well, wouldn't it be so cool, right? Like if you had this kind of like-minded hub,
Yeah.
like where you could hop in and jump into these creative stories, rather than getting it from Steam or the Oculus Store,
Yeah.
where like almost like stepping into the museum of other realities and Mask Maker's an exhibition almost. That's such a
Yeah.
cool idea, right?
Yeah. I think it would be really interesting, and in the future, I'm sure there will be like some like more creative platforms like this that offer like this kind of yeah, the piece of stories you can dive in and share with other players.
Mm.
I think Rec Room is showing the way a little bit for that kind of content, even if the kind of stories and games Rec Room has is not exactly my cup of tea. I think the how it's the structure and the yeah the how it works. I think it's a pretty yeah, it's a pretty amazing potential there.
Mm. I think we should wrap up with one last question. I know you've kind of hinted and can't talk about specifically what you're going to work on next, but I would love to get an idea of what really interests you next, not what the game is, what the theme is, and everything like that. But like you've done so much with Fisherman, so much with Maskmaker, so much with Firebird. What really interests you to explore next in VR?
Uh, what can I say? I can say that, and I think it will go nicely with the thing I just said about the under presence. I can say
Mm.
that personally, I'm really interested in multiplayer systems, especially in the narrative for the narrative for a narrative experience or for a narrative game. I think there is not enough stuff that has been done. There are multiplayers. There will be a lot of multiplayer content. I think in the next in the next years or so, but like a well-crafted narrative that you can really share with other players is something I'm really looking forward to, and I hope within our space we'll be able to go into that territory and create also compelling stuff.
That sounds really, really cool. Balthazar, thanks so much for
Yes.
joining us today. Mask Maker is out now on PSVR and PCVR. Balthazar from Inner Space was here just answering questions. Just make sure to rewind through the stream if you haven't already. Some great chat we've just had over the past 47 minutes or so. Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow with more live streams. But Balthazar, if people want to follow you, where can they reach you?
So we have our Twitter, so at InnerSpaceVR on Twitter, and we just have created a Discord with the release of the of Maskmaker.
Oh, cool.
Join our community on Discord. We have the link on our Twitter, on our website as well. So come join the Maskmaker gathering.
All right, cool. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you later.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye. Okay.